good to see you guys. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex Mertens, and today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 unit lineup and my experience using it for nearly half a year. First, let me make it very clear that I come from a windsurfing background. So coming from freestyle windsurfing to winging, I immediately fell in love with the booms on the slicks. So what's my take on the Duotone unit handles? We'll get to that later. So the unit. Before we jump any deeper into this review, I do need to make it aware that I was sent these wings by Duotone in order to make this review for you guys. But everything that I will be saying is my own opinion. So enjoy. Aside from being a free ride, freestyle, wave, and jumping absolute unit, this wing has a variety of new changes that have come to it, which have really improved what it was from the last year. First, there is a new longer handle, which allows for much more riding positions and just more riding freedom. The drift stability has increased a lot on this wing, consistent power delivery throughout the wing, and of course the Mod 3 canopy. But do any of these actually make a difference? So first, let's talk about Mod 3. Mod 3. Does it really make a difference? Yes. But in some areas, it's not always as great of a trade-off as you may think it is. With Mod 3 being a much thicker and stiffer material, it does improve the performance of the wing a lot, especially on the higher end of the spectrum. Personally, on the normal unit, I found that the Mod 3 actually kind of made the low end of the wing a little bit worse. And by a little bit worse, it's not that it's actually just much less performance, it's just it feels a little more difficult to get going when compared to the old Technoforce that we had on like the original 2021 unit. You especially feel it when you're pumping, and because of the stiffer canopy, you can almost feel like the wingtips flexing a bit more as you are really pulling and pumping hard, but that's only for those niche moments. Once you're up and going, you can totally feel the difference of what Mod 3 brings. The Mod 3 canopy just allows you to go so much faster in a straight line, especially when you really pull in on your backhand and you just start blasting in a straight line. Like, you go so fast with this wing, it's not even funny. Yeah, Mod 3 really does make a difference. And the one thing I will say also is, as you start getting to the really high end of that power spectrum, I found that the old Technoforce kind of had like this nice gentle curve of where the power starts to like dither out and you no longer really feel the difference. But on Mod 3, that ceiling of where that upper limit is much higher, but the moment you pass that ceiling, it gets pretty uncontrollable and the wing starts to get really wild. But other than that, just in general, the performance, if you are using the wing in the right size, right amount of wind, all of those conditions, it is fantastic. It is a great addition to the wing, and it really adds to the performance without needing to upgrade the strut materials to something like a Lula. I would love to see a Pentatex wing, like the Slick SLS, with the Mod 3 canopy. I think that would be such a good performance wing. So now the handles and the riding options. The unit has this much longer front handle on it, which is great because now we can do the one-handed riding like what we would normally do with the boom, but without the boom. And what's amazing about the handles is the fact that they are built into the wing. Say I pumped up like a 3.5 slick and all of a sudden the wind dies and I need to take my 4.5. Well, I have to take my 3.5, I need to de-rig it, take the boom out, put it onto a 4.5, pump it back up and go. It's small things, but it adds time. And in the end, it's also a little annoying doing that. But with these new handles, because they're built in and we have basically all the same capability that we did with a boom, minus that small gap in the middle, you get all the benefits and you can pump up as many wings as you want. You don't ever have to worry about running out of booms. Overall, I really love the handles for that, but I will say that there are some little negatives about them. These corners on the handles are quite sharp. I feel like if it was to drop really hard on my board, it might puncture through the deck of the board. Say, for example, when you're swimming and the wing is kind of flapping around. And then overall, these handles have this weird shape. They're kind of twisted in like this. For most people who are used to it, it's probably great. But I'm coming from a boom where I'm used to having a really parallel flat bar to hold onto. So I found that it was actually pulling a bit more on the insides of my fingers, especially on like my pointer fingers, which was giving me a little more like torque through my arms. I'm sure after probably a whole season of using these wings, I will be used to it. But for the first bits of using it, I definitely felt a bit more pressure going through my arms due to the angle of those handles. Booms versus handles. I am still a boom believer. While these handles are a great step in the right direction, I do still think that a boom is overall a better option than handles. I would love to see something like a boom that's built into a wing that we could roll up from Duotone. At this time, that doesn't exist. the power distribution on the unit. Overall, the power distribution is really nice, actually. It feels more like a freestyle windsurf sail to me than it does like a wave sail. The slick feels closer to a wave/freeride sail when you're holding it, just because of where the distribution of the power is. The slick feels much more central and balanced, really easy ride. But the unit is definitely overall a more powerful wing, but the power is also slightly more forward. I really noticed this the first time when I did my first tack with the unit coming from the slicks, because I do this tack where when I throw the wing around, I tend to sheet in a little bit to hold my body up as I switch my feet. When I sheeted in with the unit, just a little bit, as much as I would with the slicks, my feet actually both lifted off the board and I ended up losing the board because the wing just started taking off with me on it. The power distribution on the unit feels really good. It's slightly more forward, so it feels a little more drivey than the slick, but overall, it's really balanced and controllable. Coming from the slick, the unit definitely doesn't feel as stable in terms of like the drift stability. At the same time, it feels way more lively, which is great. The slick, when you're holding that thing, flagging it, it kind of just feels like it's gonna stay there. It's definitely stable, not like the most stable wing on the planet, but it is a significant improvement than what we had a few years ago. The unit now, you can hold it there and it'll feel close to the slick. It's not quite there, but it's close enough and it feels really good. But the one thing that's great about it, because the unit has more dihedral than the slick, it actually is much more lively in a good way. The only time you're really going to notice this is when you are doing any kind of like carving where you're putting the wing not downwind of you, but actually upwind or behind you and letting the wing drag behind. I really noticed this winter in Baja, where I would use the unit and I would have it dragging behind me, and it didn't matter how I turned my hips on my carves, the unit would just snap and follow me around. Like I could really whip the turns and the wing would just slide on through, which was an amazing feeling. And then I went back to using the slick, tried to do the same thing, and actually the slick was almost too stable in that aspect, where it didn't feel like it wanted to whip around with me. That being said, there is a new slick out now, which I have not gotten to try, so I cannot speak to that. So I'm comparing this like motion to the 2023 slick. For free riding, the unit is definitely a fun wing, but I wouldn't say that it's the ideal free ride wing. Just because the wingspan is a bit wider than that of the slick, I feel like the slick is a more comfortable wing to ride around, especially if you're taking larger sized wings. I'm not crazy tall. I like to ride with my wing relatively low, probably around like belly button height. I know most people ride with it higher, but when I ride with it that low, at least with the 4.5 slick, I'm not touching tips on the water, but with the 4.5 unit, I am. That being said, the unit has so much more pull and overall has a much higher top speed than the slick. So if your goal is to go fast, then the unit is the one for you. But if you're looking for just an overall fun ride, the slick might be a better, easier to use option. For freestyling, the unit is definitely a pretty awesome freestyle wing, depending on the moves you're going for. If you're doing your first jumps, 360s, like honestly, it doesn't matter which wing you take. The slick is a great option. The unit is a great option. If you're trying to jump really high, you'll probably go higher on the unit just because this thing has way more lift than the slick, but it's not saying that you can't go high with the slick. It's just going to all come down to your technique on that part. But for the spins and stuff, the unit definitely spins much faster. I feel like it's a similar thing to what I was saying earlier about the wing drifting when you're doing your carves behind you. The slick feels a bit more locked in and stable in that way, but the unit will really start spinning and just start going, if you know what I mean. For swell riding, I would have to give it to the unit again on this one, just because of the fact that while it's not the most stable wing in the world, when you let it flag, it is loose and it is open. And if you are trying to do these carves where you have the wing dragging behind you, you need that wing to be moving. And the unit just does it so effortlessly. It's a great feeling wing for swell riding. I really started falling in love with doing strapless swell riding thanks to the unit, because I really felt comfortable just letting it sit behind me, upwind of me, as I was ripping down swells. And yeah, it's a great wing for that. So a question that I get a lot on the beach is, because I have both the D-Lab and the normal unit, is the D-Lab worth it? In my opinion, Yes, but it's only for the certain kind of person that's going to really reap the benefits from it. The D-Lab is basically everything that the normal unit does, just kind of cranked up to 11. It's kind of eye-opening how different it is. The 4.5 D-Lab unit feels more responsive than the 4.0 normal unit. And by responsiveness, I mean in terms of like the drift stability and how it swings through when you're doing your carves and stuff. And also the speed at which the wing spins. And I'm pretty sure that most of that has to come down to the fact that the Alula front struts have a smaller diameter. And that just allows for the air to pass through quicker on the wing and allow the wing to pass through much faster. I find myself reaching more to the 4.5 and just holding down a little more power than grabbing the 4.0. But if it really starts to get strong, I will of course grab the 4.0 and it's still going to be a super fun ride. If you're just going back and forward, doing jibes and not really doing jumps or trying to go the absolute fastest speed, you won't feel a difference between the D-Lab and the normal unit. You might feel it in like the light winds when the wing is not really like flying itself and you have to pump. You'll really feel the flex on the normal units, whereas on the D-Lab you won't really feel the wing flexing at all and it's going to feel a lot more solid. But do you need it? No, probably not. If you are trying to push the envelope in terms of speed or trying to do all these crazy carving maneuvers or freestyle, like the D-Lab is definitely a very great upgrade for that. So, unit versus the slick. Overall, I love both of these wings. I think that they are fantastic. If I had to label each one, I would label the slick as the control wing. It's a great wing for having a lot of control over everything that you want to do, thanks to the boom, the really good drift stability, and having slightly less power actually makes the whole thing a lot more controllable. So for people doing free ride and stuff, it's a great option also with the shorter wingspan and yeah. But if you are really trying to push the envelope and you want to feel max performance, that's where the unit is. I would say the unit is the performance wing. It kind of sacrifices some things like perfect drift stability in order to really get a responsive and reactive like swing in the wing when you want it to swing. Comparing the two, they're both different beasts. I love both of them. At the moment, I think I am leaning more towards the unit, but I would love to see kind of a good combination of both, where we could have like a unit with the slick boom. That would be absolute money. That's like my dream. Who is each wing for? If you are just the average Joe, cruising and bruising, going back and forth, the normal unit is perfect for you. Especially if you want to have just one bag, your board and foil to the beach, the unit is great because you don't have any of those extras coming around with you like your boom. You don't have that little antenna sticking on the side of your bag. But if you are someone who is absolutely trying to push the envelope, go as fast as humanly possible, jump as high as humanly possible, trying to absolutely shred the waves and get the foil out of the water, the D-Lab unit would be perfect for you. So that's been my thoughts on the 2024 lineup of the units. I dropped some little comparisons between last year's Slick and the unit this year. If you want to check out my Slick review, you can see it up here. That has been my review of the 2024 Duotone unit lineup. Overall, it's a super fun wing. I think for anyone who gets their hands on it, it's going to have a blast. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button down below, subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.